I'm here in my favourite place in the world, Ilan Clara, which is about 3 miles off the west coast of Cork. And it is one of the most beautiful sunsets that I've seen in a while. It's just beautiful the way the sun sets and sheds its golden light all over the island and just makes the greens look even more beautiful than they normally do, which is saying something. And I'm on a little shoe load, a little trek up to the Shanteoch Sulish, which is the old lighthouse here. And it's a ruin on the island. And that was actually the lighthouse for the west coast, well, southwest coast of Ireland before Fastnet Rock came along. And arriving here has just brought back an amazing flood of warm, beautiful memories of my youth and since. And yeah, that sunset is just incredible, absolutely beautiful. And then later on, you get this magical. Once that sun goes down, then Fastnet Rock starts to ratchet up, and you get this sweep of beautiful light, which sweeps all over the island. It's like a searchlight that sweeps all over the island, and it's a magical kind of mystical kind of thing later on. And arriving here, it's just brought back a flood of memories. It's just been an incredibly emotional and beautiful experience to be back here. I arrived here in the summer of 1985, in June or July, August actually. And I was 12 years of age when I first arrived here first. And when I got off the boat and landed on this island, I think my life has changed forever. My young life was changed forever because this place changed me and has formed a lot of what I believe in, a lot of what I value in life ever since. And it even just struck me, just one aspect was I've always wanted to walk places, and I'll walk for an hour. I'll walk 10 kilometers if necessary rather than drive or things like that. And people have asked me why, and I'd never really known. I've always kind of took it for granted, but it was actually this island. It's only today that I realised that coming to this island that made me love walking and exercise. And this will push you to the extreme because there are massive mountains, and the Lac of Ore here is one of the steepest roads you can probably find in Ireland, and it comes up from the Coon all the way up to the middle of the island, the Lac of Ore they call it. And I would walk up that every day at the age of 12, and it just the exercise was and everything else combination. It was just a magical month that I spent on this island at the age of 12. I stepped off the boat, and I started speaking Irish to people. And for those outside Ireland who don't know what Irish College is, would assume that that would be what you are there for, and that's kind of what I assumed it was there for. But most Irish people will kind of realise that almost nobody speaks Irish in Irish colleges. It's a kind of a sad reflection of the whole thing, but it's a bit of a, it makes a bit of a farce of it. But I wanted to speak Irish, and I started speaking Irish to people, and so the immediate reaction I think that people had was that I was a freak and a bit of weirdo, and that has been nothing has changed. I quite often get that reaction from people to this day, and it's something I'm kind of proud of because I want to be that eccentric weirdo, and because the people that I most admire and most love in life and like to spend time with are eccentric people. I find it very difficult to tolerate people who are just very normal. And so I started to speak Irish, and I didn't stop for the whole 3 weeks. And gradually I befriended some like-minded people who had that Taliban spirit of intense love for the Irish language. So a small group of us spoke Irish to each other for those magical 3 weeks, and we've been friends ever since. And one of them went across the world to China, and we've stayed in touch, and we've been very close friends ever since. And an experience like this on a really abandoned, remote island like this, especially back then when I was 12, it was a formative experience of my life and a bit of a rite of passage, I think. It was just a beautiful experience. There are cars in the island, but we walked everywhere. So it's about 3 miles in width and about a mile or 2 miles, or well, about 4 miles in length, and about 3 miles in width. A lot of flies around, and a pig there that scared the life out of me as I was coming up. I didn't see him as I was turning around the corner, but it was a magical experience. We'd wake up in the morning and we'd go to a little bit of Skull, but we'd go to school, and then in the afternoon we would do Cayley practice, and then we would go to a Cayley that night, which were raucous, intense, brilliant experiences. And no nightclub that I've been to has kind of matched that since. And I suppose the whole experience of living in this island for 3 weeks awakened to me that there was a life that we had in Ireland, which sadly is kind of past, where people spoke Irish, they lived largely off the land, they valued education hugely, and the arts. I mean, the people on this island were very interested in folklore, history, literature, poetry. A lot of writers came from here. And it gave me an insight into a centuries old traditional life that we had in Ireland. And I fell in love with it. And I wanted more. And I met some amazing people here, made some incredible friendships. And even at the age of 12, I met a girl, and we had a lovely little, I suppose she was my girlfriend at the time, and it was incredibly innocent, but that was a lovely experience. So we spent 3 weeks together, and she was Gaeilgeoir as well. And it turned out that we lived about a 5-minute walk from each other back in the city. And when we wrapped up here, we never saw each other again. And and I think in a way it was probably perfect that way, because it was just everything about this island. It was like self-contained little beautiful tale of adventure, and just a remote adventure on an island like this, which could never be repeated really in the mainland. And a lot of the emotions that I have about coming back here, and the interesting aspect of it is that it's like they're sealed in a time capsule. You know, if you live in a place for 10, 20 years and you have various roller coaster emotions, they tend to scrub each other out and overwrite each other. But the memories I had here were kind of locked once I left, and they never changed. They were burned into the memory. And it's beautiful in that way, because they never grew old. They never grew up with me. It was the memory of me as a 12-year-old. And I think I was really happy then. And when I came back, I came crashing down to earth, and that's a totally different story. Another 105 videos, I would say. But even to this day, I mean, there's a Cuan. The main Cuan is where the main harbour, where that's Cuan Oscuelga, where the boats come in. But there's a small little Cuan at the other end of the island there, and I used to go there, and it's totally deserted, and one of the most beautiful silent places on earth. And I used to go there to just relax and just switch off. And to this day, if I'm having a stressful experience, I close my eyes and I imagine I'm there in that Cuan at the other end of the island, and it gives me that sense of calm and peace. And being back here, one of the most amazing things, the sounds that I love here, is the silence. You just listen to this. It's sort of a unique sense of silence here that you don't get anywhere else. You get it's punctuated by the odd bird and maybe a cow. But that dead silence is just incredible. It just fills you up. It's lovely. And coming back here makes me, I suppose, just there's that flood of beautiful memories, almost all positive, of coming here. And it was against all the odds. I mean, as a 12-year-old kid being brought to thrown onto an island where I knew absolutely nobody, and had to get to know people and lived a whole new magical life. And now I'm back here again, and I'm on my own here on this trip, and it still is quite as good. I'm enjoying my own company and just immersing myself in the kind of the beauty of the place and the feelings and the pure silence and remoteness of it all. It's incredible. For the first time I've met somebody who lives on the island earlier, which was kind of magical. And we went for a swim. He's a friend of a friend, and that's a bit of an insight into what it's like to live here, which is a unique experience, and everything is different. I mean, you're so closed off, so rural. There's only 100 people living on the place, which is a little bit sad, because when I was there were a couple of hundred. I mean, back in those days, I mean, you're always going to get stuck in a bit of nostalgia, but it's hard not to with this place, because when I was 12 years of age, even then I got an insight into the crack that was at night. And when I came back here as a teenager, we went camping just on the hillside there. We didn't even go to the normal campsite. We camped on the hillside and we went down to the pub, and that pub would stay open all night till 5, 6, 7 in the morning. And it was the island that never slept. And there was amazing crack. There were a lot of 3 or 4 bustling pubs. Now they never really closed. Now, sadly, they're never really open, because there isn't really anybody. I mean, I've been here a couple of years ago during the winter, and it is a very lonely place, because it seems to be totally cleaned out during the winter time. I mean, you get the impression that there must be 50, 60 people at most living here full time. A lot of it's very part-time. And I suppose the other sad aspect of it, having said earlier about having that Taliban zeal for speaking the Irish language back in those days, and there would be people around you, or immersed in people around you in the shops and the pubs speaking Irish, and that seems to be kind of gone now, which is sad too. They seem to have abandoned it. Apart from, and I must credit the B&B owner that I'm staying, Trina, who runs the Cape Clear B&B, and she's a Gaeilgeoir, and that's the reason I stay there. It's just, we speak Irish to each other all the time, and it's that transports me back to that time, but also to the present, because just as long as there's 2 people speaking that language, then we still have it. But it's sad now to see people in the pubs and on the boat just speaking English to each other all the time. They've abandoned kind of the language. It seems to me there's about 10 people on the island still speaking the language, and fair play, Trina is one of those, definitely. But everything about this place, the memories are incredibly positive, so beautiful. It's like being transported back in time. And that sunset is just about to go down now. That is incredible. That's like an oil painting. The greens are just incredible, absolutely beautiful. And so just beautiful memories of this place. Just hard to get up to this Shantock Sullish. In the older days, it used to be fairly easy to get up to it now, but it's kind of closed off a little bit, which is another aspect as well. Some of the access is a bit restricted, but I love this place. I love what this place was. Like any love, there's always a bit of sadness and a bit of tension as well, and I suppose seeing it change, and like everything does, can bring out some emotions as well. Oh, look at that. It's really going down now. Sun is really hitting it. That is incredible. No, I won't. That is beautiful. So, yeah, I'm back in Ileán Clara. It's when I got off the boat, I just didn't want to move. I've just stayed there, just looking around, soaking it all in for a while. And there's just so many memories of characters here that lived here, and the crack. And my sister used to play in the pub, and all my family went through here at one stage. And it's just wonderful to be back and to feel part of it again. Wow, look at that. And yeah, and to just bask into that silence. Hear a little bit from people on the campsite who've travelled across the water. And Fastnet Rock is actually out there as well. So where is that? Yeah, I can't really see it there now, but once the light switches on later, that's another magical experience when it starts sweeping across the island. So here I am, back to my favourite place in the world. This is my favourite place. And I love it because of the Gaeilge, of the culture, of the solitude, the nature, the people, the crack, the memories. And here's to the memories. Slán go raibh.